Before I begin, you will see this magic number on the screen. Oh, it's here. So we have 441. I would like you to bear this number in mind, and I will come back to this number later in my talk. Ready? Perfect. So, you might have realized that I'm not a local. I'm from Malaysia. If you have gone through the summary for my talk today, you will then guess that I might be a lawyer, or at least a law student. Well, you are right. I'm a fresh law graduate from Cardiff University Law School, and I'm currently doing my bar training program to be a barrister. If you happen to drop by our law school one day, please don't be surprised to find yourselves being surrounded by a lot of Malaysians. Well, lawyer is quite an ordinary career choice for Malaysians, or should I say Asians in general. I believe you will agree with me. So there was one time where one of my local friends asked me, well, Justin, why are you guys so obsessed with becoming a lawyer? So I answered her in a way I believe most Asians will do, and I told her, well, you know, back home, it is either you become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, an accountant, or anything else will be a disgrace to the family. Well, I don't really know how things work here, but back home, if the career choice of yours gives you the chance of making big money, or it could make your mom feel a bit proud at a family gathering, you'll probably want to consider that first. Well, of course, it was meant to be a joke. Some of my Asian friends would say it is a lame joke. Well, but most of the time, when people talk about lawyers, they associate lawyers with money and fame. I take this as a negative association. I feel like people are talking bad things about my professional community. And there was one day that I thought to myself, well, I couldn't be the only one who dislikes this negative association. I couldn't be the only one who was defending my professional community. So, I went up to Google and I typed, do most lawyers really care about money? And I typed it with such great faith that the answers will not fail me. But the answers turned out to be, yes, we care very much. And there are 2 lawyers agreeing to this. But there is a caveat to this. You can see I haven't revealed the last part of the comment, and there is a reason to this. Before I reveal it, I would like to run a small reality check with all you guys. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you here believe or think that lawyers care about money? Well, quite a lot of you. So what if I say that there is a bunch of lawyers who work for you for free only in the interest of justice? Do you believe they exist? Well, I'm not saying about lawyers who work for you and you do not have to pay them, because you can achieve that through legal aid. And lawyers still get paid through legal aid. I'm talking about lawyers who do their work for you for absolutely nothing in return, only in the interest of justice. How many of you believe they exist? Well, I love you guys. Yes, we do. We exist. And from here you can see it is called pro bono lawyers or pro bono schemes. There are thousands of pro bono lawyers and schemes out there around the world, but I will be focusing on Cardiff University Innocence Project for the talk today. So some of you might ask, what is Cardiff University Innocence Project? What is that? Well, this is a valid question. So we are a bunch of volunteers working under Cardiff University Law School, and we consist of lawyers to be, like myself, actual lawyers, academicians, and sometimes actual victims of miscarriages of justice. So what we do is we will take in cases where there could be wrongful convictions or miscarriages of justice, and we investigate into these cases, and then we refer the case to the Criminal Case Review Commission, and they will then decide whether the case should reach the Court of Appeal for a further appeal. And we do all this for free. So our aim is to save people out from places which they never should belong to, and to remove their names from a list which could destroy their life when they have done nothing wrong. I will come back to that later as to what it is. And I believe now you might have a lot of questions. What is miscarriages of justice? How does it even relate to the theme of the talk today, disrupting ordinary? So I will first begin with what is miscarriages of justice. In ordinary terms, miscarriages of justice happens when you have been convicted of an offense which you have never committed. It is when you have been punished or sent to the prison when you have done nothing wrong. It is when you and your name is being listed on an offender's register when you have done nothing wrong in the first place. Well, some of you might think that these kind of things happen very rarely. We have ample system, we have solid process, we have gatekeepers to avoid all these things from happening. Well, I would love to say yes, but I'm not able to. You see, it is very commonly occurring around all of us, and it is ever so near to any one of us here, including me myself, that you could ever imagine. It is not rare. It happens very easily. It only takes someone who hates you to make a false accusation against you. It only takes a police investigation that should be carried out perfectly, but it didn't. And it only takes a piece of law that contains flaws in it that could fail you. And the next thing you know, you will have a case against you, and then you have to go to the court, and you might find yourselves, as required by law itself, to spend part of your life behind bars for something you have not done before. And what is more concerning than that, you might agree or not disagree with me, prison sentence is concerning. But what is more concerning is that your name is being listed on an offender's register. Prison sentence lasts for a term. But when you find your name in that register, it follows you for life. And for someone who has their name in that list, to live their life in that way is extremely difficult because of social pressure and stigma. You will see from the screen, this is a case of Garrett Jones. This case was brought by us to the Court of Appeal last year, and we have got the wrongful conviction overturned. And that means, and this is a case of sexual offenses, but unfortunately, Garrett Jones, our client in that case, has already spent his time in prison, and the purpose of this appeal was to remove his name from the sex offenders register. It is crucial and it is concerning to him because that changed the rest of his life. Well, some of you might think still that no, I'm just making a scene out of something that hardly happens. It is rare. Again, I would love to say this, but it is extremely regretful for me to disagree with you. Remember the number 441 that I asked you to bear in mind earlier on? You can see from these statistics that this number appears here in this chart. This is a chart released by the Criminal Case Review Commission, the CCRC, back in 3 months ago, I believe. So how it works for us is that when we take in cases where there could be wrongful convictions, we will then investigate into these cases, and we need to find fresh evidence that hasn't been used before in the previous appeals or in the first instance trial. And if we happen to find them, we will then need to refer the case to the CCRC, and they will be the gatekeeper. They will decide whether the case has merit and whether the case should be referred to the Court of Appeal for further appeal. And it is then the Court of Appeal's duty to decide whether the appeal should be allowed or dismissed. So for us to find fresh evidence in these sort of cases is hard, it's challenging. But for them to refer a case to the Court of Appeal is even more challenging and it's even more difficult. But even on that basis, they have referred a number of cases to the Court of Appeal, and 441 of them, of these appeals, have been allowed by the Court of Appeal. So what that means is in this country, there are at least 441 wrongful convictions made by the courts. And behind this number are at least 441 human beings suffered or are still suffering from miscarriages of justice. And this is just a number that we know that the appeals have been successful. What about those cases which are still pending appeal? What about those cases which we are still investigating? And what about those cases which have not come to light yet? It is concerning. But if this number is not appealing to you yet, the case of Liam Allen is another perfect example that would like to convince you with that these kind of things happen very frequently and easily. But I have a confession to make here. When I picked this case as an example, I was a bit reluctant because this is a case of rape and sexual offenses. Most of the time, when we think about rape cases, we tend to believe in the complainant because we believe they are the actual victim. Because cases like this rarely comes into light, and people don't really report these cases because of shame, social pressure, and whatever valid reasons it could be. But this case of Liam Allen is a particular kind of case which I would like to bring to your attention, and I would like to say that justice should be done for the defendant. So Liam Allen, in this case, he was a university student of my age, at that point of time, of course. So he was accused by his ex-girlfriend for raping and sexually assaulting her. So when, or if you have been accused of raping someone, the complainant's consent might be your best defense. So consent here is the key. So when this accusation was made, police investigations were carried out, evidence were collected, and everything seems legit that the case against Liam was strong, and he could find himself behind bars for quite some time. And of course, his name being listed on the sex offenders register. But just when you think that police investigations couldn't go wrong, here comes the plot twist. The defense counsel for Liam, Julia Smart QC, when she was preparing the case for Liam, she somehow stumbled upon a piece of evidence which was not revealed or made known to the defense counsel by the police. There was a list of chat histories in the complainant's phone, and the histories were between the complainant and her friends. And in that histories, it was shown clearly that the complainant consented to all these sexual activities. This piece of evidence is extremely crucial, but it wasn't made known to the defense counsel, and in fact, the police did not reveal this information either. There could be thousands of reasons why this non-disclosure occurred, but I will not touch upon them in this talk. It's sensitive. But if this piece of evidence weren't discovered by the defense counsel, Liam would find himself behind bars even until today. Well, you might say that, okay, Liam was just the unlucky one to find himself at the wrong place at the wrong time, but eventually, he still found his way out of jail, right? Well, yes, of course. He's not in prison now, but in view of how easy and how frequent these cases could occur to any one of us, how many times do we really want Lady Luck to be on our side to save us from prison when we have done nothing wrong? It is extremely regretful for me to say in this open place that nothing in this world is fault-proof. But the criminal justice system is probably the last thing you want to see flaws in. But in Cardiff University Innocence Project, we live with the fact that flaws exist. We know it exists, and we also know that there are kind spirits out there who are working hard and toiling to fix these issues. But at the same time, we are conscious that while things are still being repaired, people are still being sent to places where they never should have belonged to. Their names are still being listed on a list which could destroy their life when they have done nothing wrong. It hurts us to see all this. And this is the precise reason why, I believe, most Innocence Project workers and those pro bono lawyers who work with us decide to give up the comfort in life that we could have lived up to, and also the chance of making big money to help these people out when their voices couldn't be heard. Well, I know a lot of you here cares about them as well, but we care to the extent where we were willing to disrupt our ordinary daily and career life to save them out from places which they never should have belonged to. It is not rocket science to do what we do. In fact, some might say it is a boring work. We take in cases where there could be miscarriages of justice or wrongful convictions, and it is just hours and hours of reading into case files, case papers, witness statements. Quoting the words by Julia Smart QC, it is like looking for a dog that doesn't bark. And it is. We easily find ourselves weeks and weeks into case files and case papers just to find a single line which carries fresh evidence. And most often than not, we don't. And even if we so happen to find them, there is no guarantee that the case will be brought up to the CCRC and even to the Court of Appeal. And even if it reaches the Court of Appeal, there is no guarantee that this appeal will be successful. It is tough. It is a long line of work. But it is never mission impossible. It is about the willingness to sacrifice and to take a step away from the ordinary comfort in life that all of us could have lived to. As a university student, it is the time when you find yourself in a bar with your friends, sipping that cold pint of beer, watching your favorite football team plays, that I and most Innocence Project workers find ourselves within piles and piles of witness statements, case papers, and all sorts of documents. As a pro bono lawyer, it is the time when most other lawyers have their free time to spend with their family, to do things they like, or even to make bigger money, that they find themselves traveling hours and hours from London to Cardiff just to have a meeting with us or actual victims of miscarriages of justice for free. But if you ask any one of us, is this worth the while? I believe none of us will say no, because we know deep inside what we do, although small, gives hope to those in despair. So this talk might sound like a big shout out to all those who have chosen to take this path, but this is not the only reason. This talk is also a big reminder to those who are suffering from miscarriages of justice that you are not alone. There are people out there who have chosen to take this extra mile for you and be ever so ready to assist you when you need us. I'm aware that there could be 1,001 reasons for someone to step away from their ordinary career or daily life. But it only takes one to make extraordinary results. I found mine, and it just so happened that my reason coincides with all those Innocence Project workers out there. So my question for you to take home today is, have you found yours? Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the talk.